Oh, by the way, Brent, do you know
Yeah.
Tom? Do you know Tom Robertson, the guy that made the Artemis Starship sim?
No, I don't.
Okay, because he was at Interplay as well, like back then.
Welcome,
Well,
everyone.
He-
Hi, everyone. We're going.
I'm getting some feedback.
Okay, because he was at Interplay
Oh, I'm getting feedback.
back then.
Welcome, everyone.
Oh yeah, Brent, you're watching the stream.
Yeah, Brent, you might need to mute the stream.
hang on a sec.
Yeah, you can have the video up, but not the audio. Oh yeah, Brent, you're watching the stream.
Okay, hang on a sec.
You might need to mute the stream.
All right. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, you can have the video up, but not the audio.
Okay, hang on a sec.
No worries. Hi, everyone. 1 second.
You're watching the stream.
Okay, hang on a sec. All right. Hang on. I just killed it.
Okay. Yeah, because if you just there's the little audio slider at the bottom. If you just click
You
on
can
the
just kill
speaker
the mute thing.
in the video, it'll just mute it.
All right. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. That was a little impromptu stuff right there. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian. Joining us, as always, is your co-host, Jim.
I'm in the space.
And your co-host...
It's dark in space.
And cold. And your co-host, Hunter.
I'm having some technical difficulties over here. Hey, what's up, everybody?
We see and hear you just fine. And folks, we have a guest this week joining us from just south of me in Orange County, former employee at Interplay, Brent I didn't even ask you how you say your name. Kollmansberger. Is that
That's
right?
right. That's right. Kollmansberger.
Woo! Right. All right. Brent worked on Klingon Academy, which was released in 2000, which is why we have him on, because it's one of my all-time favorite games. But now Brent is an indie developer with K-Dog Games and also teaches kids how to make video games with you in a program called Coding with K-Dog. So welcome, Brent.
Oh, thank you very much. Glad to be on with you guys.
I gotta say, it is a joy to have you. I've been dying to talk to someone about Klingon Academy, and I'm so happy I got you, because you're not only credited with design, you're credited with story. So you're a 1-2 punch.
Oh, that's true.
So
Back in those days, the team sizes were pretty small, so it was easy to be credited with a lot. I mean, there really were only 2 designers on the project, so.
Oh, so there were 2 designers. So, and what portion of the design and the story did you work on?
Geez, there's not much that I didn't do.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So as far as like mission structure and the story, I did. As far as the starship design, the star systems design, the other designer, my co-designer, was Ron Hodge, and so he's actually in Orange County too, and we would work together to develop all the ship systems, all the weapons that they have and the different races that there were. The thing that he did that I didn't have a part in, I don't know if you remember, we used to call it ginsuing, when you'd hit a ship and it would break apart really beautifully.
I did want to ask you about that, because I love that about this game.
Yeah, so Ron, he was the one who went into the technical aspect and made all that happen. So that's probably the one area of the game that I didn't do, was ginsuing. He handled all of that. But as far as I built all the star systems, and I'm the one who came up with the master spreadsheet that actually balanced all the game parts. Basically all the different races of the game, all the different classes of the game. Ron and I hashed them out as basically ratios of one another, and so there was a master spreadsheet that linked everything. So, but yeah, so pretty much everything.
So I got to ask you, there are 2 of my favorite things about the game are the Ginsu system that you mentioned, but my other favorite thing is the voice order system, or the VOS. How much work did you have in that?
All of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now I'm just curious. Did you use the voiceover system with an actual mic? There was a vendor we found right before we shipped.
I sure did. I had a thing called Game Commander back in the day.
Yes,
And
yes.
yes, and I totally back in the day I had a profile set up with every damn command. And I'm actually doing that again. There's a thing called voice attack right now that
Uh-huh.
like people that play Elite Dangerous and stuff use a lot, but you can use it with anything. So I've been slowly building a Klingon Academy profile. But yeah, back in the day, I totally used Game Commander, and it made the game a billion times more awesome. I mean, not that it wasn't awesome to begin with, but that just added the immersion because it was amazing because it like simulated giving your crew orders in the best way you could at the time with a keyboard, basically with a keyboard because you didn't really have voice commands used much back then. So it was really an amazing system that just added so much immersion to the game that I don't think really any other game has really matched since, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we really wanted to deliver the feel of what it would be like to be on the starship. And so we already had the crew giving you feedback. Whenever you'd give an order, they would respond verbally. Or, whenever there's something would happen, they would be giving you status updates. And so and then it turned out our menu system, was um, growing complexity, and so we developed the voiceover system to try to make it easier to control your ship. And then when we stumbled across that vendor, unfortunately, it was right before we shipped, but I thought, wow, that is awesome. Because now you can just give your commands verbally, and your crew respond verbally. It's pretty cool.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, I played it once through. I don't finish a lot of games, but I played it once through on its own without the voice thing. And then when I got the voice thing, I'm like, I need to play this again. So I played it all the way through. I played it all the way through again with Game Commander, and it's just, I mean, sitting there like you're still kind of flying the ship, so you're not totally a captain. But that's the thing. Like Bridge Commander, did you ever play Bridge Commander?
Yeah, I did not. I'm aware of it, but I did not play it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, some people complained about Klingon Academy being like, you're not a true captain because you're flying the ship. Sure, but if you take that away, like kind of in Bridge Commander, it's so boring. It's so boring.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because a little funny story happened. One of the things we had a mode where you went into the gunnery chair.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
so when you're in the gunnery chair, the AI is flying. Your crew are flying the ship, and you're focused purely on firing the ship's weapons. And there were actually people on the team at the time, or somewhere was giving me feedback. They wanted me to allow you to basically turn over everything to the crew, so you weren't firing the weapons or flying the ship. And I and I told them, you got to be kidding me. I am not going to make a game that plays itself.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't use the gunnery chair very much. I like that it's there, but I'm always I only used it like in some of the later ships that had like the full firing arc around the ship.
Right, right.
But I
Yeah,
didn't
see,
I didn't even
I
use
use
it
it
much
as-
then.
I use it as like a padlock view. It's just like, where the heck is he? And can get some sort of a reference that way. Although I wish that there was like some different way of knowing which direction I was looking, like in relation to my ship, almost like like an external view where it would actually track the enemy, and then I could play it sort of like Starfleet Command a little bit.
Right.
But it's I don't know if that's there. I didn't find it, so maybe you can clue me if it is, and I'm just doing it wrong. But yeah, I really like the game. The first review that I ever wrote, it was an amateur review, and then that's what actually got me picked up by the editor of a magazine that asked me to come write for him. Was I reviewed the original Starfleet Academy, which yeah, Brian actually just read my review, but my one of the quotes in there was that capital ships should sort of dance a ballet together, right, and not dogfight. It's not a turn and burn thing, and
Right.
that I think that your game was the one that actually captured that correctly, because the initial game just did not. It was almost a wing commander in a Enterprise. So
Right.
Yeah, but
Well-
I'm sorry, if I recall, you didn't really have anything to do. I was looking at the credits. It didn't look like you had anything to do with the original Starfleet Academy.
No, no, no. Yeah, Klingon Academy was a sequel to Starfleet Academy. The team was completely new. I don't think we had anyone from that team.
Really? Completely new.
I think so. I think it was completely new team. And it's interesting you said that you wrote a review because that means I read it. Because we read every single review, every single forum feed, anything on Starfleet Academy. Ron and I did. And we poured over that, and then from that, we made a list of requirements for the new game. And so if you wrote a review, we probably read it, almost certainly.
Oh, neat.
Wow.
And
So I'm sorry.
So,
Oh wait,
well,
no, I
well,
didn't review your game.
We kind
So-
of we did kind of jump in the middle. So let's go back to the beginning. Like Starfleet Academy came out, it did kind of get panned, but I guess it sold well enough to warrant a sequel. So how did you get involved with the sequel?
well, a friend of mine, Rafael Hernandez, he was the producer, and so he'd been producing titles there, and uh, and so he was given this project as his first internally developed project that he would produce. And so before this time, I went to college. I studied business. I had a lot of stat, and I made games as a hobby, but not computer games. So I designed board games, card games, stuff like that. And so I'd had Rolf testing my games for years. And so when he was building a team, he convinced me to come over there. And so something that's interesting about Interplay that's not the case anymore. Interplay they would hire people that were fairly new. Most of the people on their teams were hired from their QA department. And so people would work in QA and then they would start practicing 3D modeling or they'd start practicing, whatever. And so then they would get hired out of QA. And so in my case, I was kind of a rarity because I got hired directly in as a designer. Because I had experience doing, designing board games and card games and stuff like that.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I looked up
Raphael?
You got muted, Brian.
Oh, I looked up his credits. Sorry. And yeah, it looks like he started kind of as a manual editor, and then a tester, and then a producer, and then he produced a bunch of their games like Descent,
Yep.
and Descent 2 and Descent 3, and yeah. So it looks like he was QA lead on Siberia. That's exactly it. Sound like I'm looking at like kind of his career. That's exactly what you're describing.
Right. And that's true of almost everybody that was on that team. Almost all the artists, almost everybody came through QA. The ones that weren't, the programmers didn't. So we had some really great programmers. Robert Kolchip did the AI. He had a PhD. And our lead programmer, John Panettiere, he had a master's degree. And so they came in as outside hires. But everyone else, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong about our lead artist, I'm not sure, Perry Scalf, but I think everyone else was pretty much hired from inside.
So it's kind of fast. So did starting with a whole new team help everyone get like a fresh perspective? Like, okay, this is what happened with the last game. This is what we need to do with this one.
Well, yeah, it certainly does. One of the, because we weren't attached to any of the decisions that they had made. So we were looking at, both Ron and I played a lot of Starfleet battles in the old days. So that was kind of the Star Trek background, besides obviously watching all the movies and stuff. And so we just, like I said, we really did. We read all the reviews. We played the game ourselves. And the big critiques that we had, and that was echoed by people that were writing reviews, is obviously about how it handled just like any other space sim, starfighter space sim, and handled the same. But the other thing that I really didn't like about it was all the missions were disconnected. So, you would do all the story, the film that had all these live action actors had nothing really to do with what was happening in the gameplay. They were completely disconnected. And so I didn't like that at all. And so we wanted to do something different with Klingon Academy. And so all of the film that we did is completely meshed into all the missions. And then every mission is completely meshed into the next one. So we deliberately formed them into campaigns and stuff. So that was the biggest break we made from the predecessor.
Yeah, someone on YouTube took all the cutscenes and made like a 2-hour movie out of it, pretty much. It's fun to watch just on its own. Did you actually work with any of the actors? Like, I loved how it takes place before Star Trek 6, because that's my favorite Star Trek movie. So I love how you brought back Kang, and I love how you brought back not Gowron, Gorkon.
Gorkon.
I always get those names confused. But I love how you brought back those two especially. But you also got to work with Michael Dorn as well, of course.
I'd just like to hang out with Christopher Plummer for an afternoon. That would have been pretty cool.
Well, it was actually funny. I got to go to the set one day. That was kind of like a perk to me that Raphael gave me. So Ron got like a blaster prop or something like that. And so my perk was I got to go to the set. Normally, Raph was there all the time. And so we wrote the dialogue for him, and we wrote the stories and all of that. Raphael did the actual script, and he also had a consultant that he worked with helping him with that. But I did get to go to the studio, and I don't think it was Plummer. I think it was, my mind blanks out on the actor who plays Gorkon.
David Warner.
Yeah. And he's a great guy. Well, I walked up to go into the set, right? And so sitting outside the building in full Klingon gear, smoking a cigar is Warner or something as I walked in. That was my first kind of God, here is this Klingon puffing on a cigar. But I got to see them do their scenes together, and it was electrifying. It's probably the most powerful scenes in the game. You know, where they're kind of sparring with each other, negotiating with each other. So yeah, and all the film crew kind of applauded when they were done. They're very experienced actors, and they just had fun being together in a scene.
Oh, was that later in the story where they were trying to work out their differences for the sake of the Empire, basically?
Yeah, exactly. That's where Gorkon is trying to get Kang to rally with him and fight off the foes, and that's where he says no.
I gotta say, the story was so great in that game, just so great. It was a perfect little prequel to Star Trek 6. I thought, like, it was really well done.
Oh well, thank you very much. Yeah, we really enjoyed it. And Raphael did a really good job on the script, and he pulled out all the quotes, of Shakespeare quotes, and so yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really cool whenever a game actually gets to transcend a little bit and create canon in the universe rather than just being a licensed thing that has to just regurgitate what has been. So that's a pretty unique opportunity there.
Yeah, it was actually kind of funny trying to do that because the Star Trek universe, every show is really kind of independent. And so Ron and I spent a lot of time, and Ron was, in addition to Ginsuing, he was the one who spoke Klingon. He was the one who really got into, yeah, he really did. He researched all the Klingon stuff, and all the characters have Klingon names and have meanings if you know Klingon. Oh, now I lost my train of thought as I said that. But, I just totally lost what we were talking about there.
Yeah, so one of the guys that showed up in the chat room is Ken Burnside, who actually worked on Starfleet Battles.
Oh, sweet. No, are we talking about the Starfleet Battles video game?
No, the board game.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, I played a lot of that with my friends, a lot.
Oh, that's cool. Hey, so toward the end of the show or whatever, we could actually dial him up, bring him on if you want to talk to him. If Brian's all right with that.
Of course I am. Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about the game first off, and then
sure. I'm totally.
We do that, we're gonna nerd out on the board game. So
unfortunately, I turned off the chat room with that feedback issue. I couldn't find the off switch, and I just turned it off. So
no, that's fine. Jim, do you have him on Skype?
Yeah. Maybe I will. If I don't, I will.
Okay. Yeah. Make that happen so you can bring him in a little later.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so the game came out. Now, How long did you guys work on the game before it came out? Because it seemed, I mean, with the story and the detailed ship systems, it seems like a ton of work went into making it happen.
That is very, very true. So, like I said, Starfleet Academy came out. We were tasked to make a sequel. Now, not only did Interplay generally hire fairly new people, but the team size in those days were small. So, I mean, literally, our team was, I think, like 8 people. And it ballooned out to like maybe 14 people or so. If you look through the credit list of like the core folks that worked on the game, it's really kind of small. And I remember we were taking heat for having as many people as we did, which is interesting because nowadays, you'll have 200 people on a team. So, but it took us 3 years to make the game, which was at least 1 year too long as far as development cycles go. So one of the things about having new people is that we were very ambitious. So we were trying to make the game that everybody wanted. Like I said, we made our task list off of all the feedback that was out there, plus all the things that we wanted to do. And so we started off being very ambitious, and we made the scope too large. And so it took us 3 years to get the game out.
Wow. But I mean, the scope was still pretty big. I mean, not a lot of space games have missions in multiple points within a solar system that you can warp to, and other solar systems you can warp. I mean, the missions were very involved.
Does this game utilize like a familiar engine for the time that like we would recognize?
No, it actually was an internally developed system for Starfleet Academy.
Okay.
And then we were building on it. And by the time we were done with it, management asked us, hey, can we make another game out of this? And our lead programmer, John Panettiere, said no. It basically was, well, you have to understand now, this was a Windows 95, 98 game. It was built off of engine for something else. And some of the source code was actually even lost. So, I mean, there's an actual story. This is, I don't remember, you guys probably know, that the default resolution was, I think, either 800, 600, or it was even less than that. I don't remember. But the bottom line was, during this 3-year development cycle, all of a sudden people were getting higher resolutions than the game was capable of. And so we said, okay, let's crank up the resolution, which obviously it's not really that easy to do. But what it turned out that the code was missing. So our lead programmer literally went in and looked at the compiled code, trying to find something he could change. And he found where he could change it, and all of a sudden we had a higher resolution. But I mean, it was already compiled. He was doing like a hacker would.
So
wow.
Just to give you the clue, the highest resolution I've ever had it in was 3440 by 1440. And it ran just fine.
And that is with some enterprising user made a few hacks that allow it to run in high def, and it looks glorious. The video that's on the
only
stream
problem
right
is
now,
the fonts are like microscopic, so I can't read anything.
Right.
Yeah.
But it looks great.
The UI doesn't scale with the resolution, but the rest of the game, phenomenal. Just looks great.
So, Brent, have you played the Star Trek Online game? Because that's the only thing that even nearly approximates this. The space stuff. The ground stuff is trash, but the space stuff is pretty okay.
I actually haven't. I haven't played hardly any Star Trek things after that. I'm not saying I was burned out on Star Trek, but I just didn't.
I mean, when you make something great, why lower yourself to another standard?
Not only that, but this is like really one of the last great Star Trek games. Really.
Yeah, there was nowhere to go but down after this.
I mean, after
really.
this was Bridge Commander a few years later, which was nowhere near as good.
Well, if you want to talk about like ship combat games, yes. But if you want to talk about Star Trek games in general, Elite Force and Elite Force 2 weren't bad.
Okay, that's fair. No, those are very good. Those are very good. But I mean, on the whole, in the whole like pantheon of Star Trek games, this one to me is near the very, very tippy top. And so it's hard to go down from that, really. I mean,
You know,
I think the only thing that comes close to these are the 25th anniversary and Judgment Rights. And I think that's pretty much it. Maybe Starfleet Command, but I love the Starfleet Command games, but I think they're a little below this one. I'm sorry. That's just me.
Yeah, Space Sims started to decline right before we launched. So, like, I played the Wing Commander series. I'm sure you guys probably did too. But during our development, before we launched this game, they came out and said they weren't making another. So I don't know if you remembered that or not. But
I do.
So consumer taste were shifting away from Space Sims, which were such a big niche before. So I actually, after I shipped this game, I haven't played another Space Sim. I don't think.
I want to know what the statistics are that would say that the consumer is shifting away, because I feel like there was such a love for it. It just doesn't make. I'd like to see how they figured that out.
Well, there was, but I think people started to find that playing on consoles was easier. And so they started.
True, because there's the boom of the consoles.
Yeah, they started gravitating toward, especially the PS2 and Dreamcast era. They started gravitating toward those easier experiences where you didn't need the expensive joystick and you didn't need, the separate monitor. You already had a television, so consoles became more appealing for a while, and I think that it was one of the reasons people started shying away from the Space Sim. Which is a shame, but we're seeing now, everything is a cycle. It starts coming back.
Right.
So when you guys gonna make Klingon Academy 2?
You know what? I'm still bitter, Hunter. I'm still bitter. He just said
no, because now's the time.
Now is the time. Kickstart that shit. Stuff. Sorry, kickstart that stuff. I'm doing better. Kickstart that.
No,
stuff.
I have a plan, right? Because Brent teaches
he's
kids.
a Cylon.
No, Brent teaches kids how to code, and this will bypass child labor laws, and then you can have a small army working as developers on this game.
Oh, they
It
would
doesn't
love
have
that.
to pay them. In fact, they will pay him to work. It's like Tom Sawyer. Like, come here, whitewash the fence. You can pay me for that.
Nice. Well, they would love that. That's for sure.
It would go great on their resumes when they start getting older. What was the first game you ever made? Well, I was, real young, and I helped make Klingon Academy 2.
Yes.
How young? Elementary school. Wow.
So we have another gentleman that hangs out in our Facebook page, and he made the Klingon Academy mod for the Starfleet Academy 2 game. So it's basically Armada. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the Starfleet Armada RTS game. And he I don't know if he handmade them or imported them or how he got all the ships from Klingon Academy in it, but he's got all the ships from Academy ported into that game somehow.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it makes a massive difference to the game. It's 10 times better than it was when they shipped it.
That's often the case. That's why they have everything now where it takes mods, The passion and creativity that people have, mods do often make the game much better than it ever was.
Yeah, so one thing that I would very strongly suggest is there's a game called Sins of a Solar Empire, and they have made the Starfleet Armada 3 mod for that, because they just said, well, we're going to make Armada 3, we're going to use this engine, and it's fantastic. It is, as a mod, I would have no problem pulling out $60 and buying it as a retail game. It's AAA.
Absolutely.
So what I found out today, this is old news probably to other people, but I found it today, is Gul Dukat from Gul Gaming, who is one of the developers of
not
that.
The real one, not the real one. Not the real
but but the guy on
his YouTube is Gul Gaming.
Yeah. So he is, and his mod team who made that mod are the ones that are actually working on the Stellaris Star Trek mod, and they're porting the assets over into that. So it's going to be all the same ships and everything, all that AAA quality is going over into Stellaris as we speak.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Stellaris, if you're not familiar, is the Paradox just came out with it. It's the grand strategy game. It's the same dudes that made like Europa Universalis and Crusader Kings and all that stuff. So they make these epic grand strategy games, and they're basically turning it into a Star Trek thing now.
Did you see Ken Burnside's comment in YouTube chat there? It says child labor sweatshop coding is still better treatment than how most game devs are actually handled.
He's probably right.
Cause yeah, you were kind of there in the swan song days of Interplay. Like Interplay didn't last a lot longer than 2000, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's very true. I was with Interplay for 3 years, and I probably joined them. I probably hired in where they were already at their peak at that point, and they were doing a series of. It seemed like every year they had a new strategy for trying to turn the company around, and we just couldn't pull it off. That's really kind of what happened.
What killed them is they never shipped Secret of Vulcan Fury. But do you know where the voice tapes are? Because that's the thing. Every time that I get to touch somebody that's from Interplay, and it's happened many times. We had the Volition guys on. We had Tom, who was the lead dev on that project. Nobody knows where the voice tapes are, because that was the last time the entire Star Trek cast actually assembled and did voice actor work. And because they did Star Trek 25th anniversary, they did Judgment Rights, and then hot on the heels of that, they did Secret of Vulcan Fury, which got canned, and then all the audio disappeared. Nobody knows where it is.
Did that get canned before Klingon Academy shipped?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it was. Do you remember the Star Trek Ground Force game? It was. They made Command and Conquer. It was like
Star Trek Away Team or something like that.
No, it had tanks. It was like hover tank. Yeah.
Battlegrounds.
So it was like the next generation shuttles, but they had turrets on the top and they were tanks and stuff. So I remember that the trailer
sounds awful.
It was. When you installed that game, the ad for Secret of Vulcan Fury was the thing that it forced you to watch. So it was right in that time. So I don't know if I could recall what the heck the name of that game was, but yes. It was right around Descent Free Space 1 was also in that era.
Well, when projects get canceled, it's not surprising to me at all that the assets kind of just evaporate. I mean, literally, things get put in boxes. When we finished with Klingon Academy, they laid off a lot of the team. And because I was the designer, who I knew they were going to keep doing a little bit of work on an editor and other stuff. So since I was a designer that was handling all the balancing, I was the only one who knew how. I didn't have I wasn't that my input was the only thing for balancing, but I was the one who handled all the data part of it. So I was trying to write up instructions and save files and stuff so the next guy would actually have something to work with. And, I don't even think they wanted that. I mean, where did that work go? I don't know. Probably got burned. I probably burned it to a disk for him, and it probably went in a box in some closet somewhere. So,
Yeah, because that particular item, I think, is priceless to the Star Trek community, and nobody can find it. And I want to be the one that does, because then I can auction that shit, and I will be the richest man. No, I'm kidding. I just want to find it.
Yeah. I don't know. My guess is it probably doesn't exist, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not some huge vault that they stick all this stuff in. So,
what is it that you're not telling us?
Interplay is basically a filing cabinet in somebody's basement right now, isn't it? I mean, it's not even a tangible company, is it? It's just like the IP.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think we did go out of business entirely. Now, whether I think some of their IP got bought up and their brand name got bought up, and I think there is some kind of entity there. I don't know. I don't really know what that relationship is. But
so if they're
Yeah, apparently there's enough of an entity to license stuff to Steam and GOG. Apparently,
So if
it's
somebody,
like a ghost entity. Apparently,
yeah, if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I want to make a mod for Klingon Academy," would you help me out? Would you be open to that? Like to jump back into this beast and make it do things it was never intended to do, kind of modernize it? Because I think due to the limitations with the IP and stuff, you wouldn't be able to make Klingon Academy 2, right? But you could definitely take the base thing here and rework the assets and the code and stuff, as long as it wasn't a separate product, right? Because we just went through that whole CBS Paramount shenanigan with Axanar, but the mod scene didn't get touched in that, thankfully. So
Yeah, I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think there's much that I could add at this point. I mean, literally, you were talking like 16 years ago now. So, could I rummage around and possibly come up with some files for something? Maybe.
was
But
it modular enough that you could rip the guts out and kind of build a new game in here?
in Klingon Academy?
Yeah, because I mean, you kind of know the code, right? So I don't know.
No, I don't. See, that's the
Well,
thing. When I worked on Klingon Academy, I was a designer purely. So in other words, so I didn't do any coding on that project. I did. I managed a lot of data. We had very intricate data files for every single ship and every single star systems and all of that. And so I managed all that stuff, and balanced code anything. I didn't script.
All right.
Like nowadays, when I was working at Activision, I would design a Spider-Man level and I would code or script it. But in Klingon Academy, the scripters were separate roles.
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, because you
Yeah, so
worked on Spider-Man 2, if I'm looking correctly, which is one of like the legendary games of the PS2 era.
Yes, I did. And two other Spider-Man titles too. So, but yeah, it was a great game.
I think the original
very cool.
designer of that one, didn't he just release a new game like called Energy Hook or something like that? I think.
It depends. Now by the time you got to Spider-Man 2, the team sizes were getting larger. So when you say designer, which person are we talking about? I remember seeing something that Jamie, I think it's Jamie Fristum, had done something. He's doing indie work now. There's another person who was on that team. He's doing indie work. They just did a where they raised money, Kickstarter. He just did a Kickstarter, and that was, who is that? It escapes me at the moment. So there are people from that Spider-Man 2 team that have their own companies or are part of indie teams. So I don't know who you would call the designer, though, at that point. There's the creative director, there's a lead designer, there's people doing some design on the programming side.
Yeah. So tell me about design stuff from this then, what you were involved in, as far as, like designing the ships, and you had to figure out like which systems and what stuff the player could control, right? And like all those menus and sub menus and that sort of system. And I'm sure that was not an easy thing to derive and still keep it usable.
Yeah, it's like I had already mentioned how most of us, this was our first title to work on. Just before I go into the specific decisions or whatever, you were asking me, would I make something like this again? I certainly wouldn't make it this detailed, this complicated. For example, from my no, you guys hear me out. I ask you a question and then you tell me. If the game shipped and it was just like it was, but there was no boarding parties, would you have really lost much?
No.
So we could have taken out boarding parties, and that would have been an entire UI screen. Times 6 races.
That's true. In fact, I don't think I ever used the boarding parties, so I definitely wouldn't have missed it.
I'm having trouble remembering boarding parties, honestly.
So yeah, there was a system where if you knocked down somebody's shield, you could beam over some boarding parties and they would sabotage them from the inside or try to take over the bridge even.
I don't
And
even remember this. I must have never used it or something.
Yeah, it's a system that I completely missed being in the game. I mean, a lot of games actually do that sort of thing, but it's very abstracted, where you just say, okay, target
It's
the
almost like an
and
ability, right? Like you just click on a thing and it just does it.
yeah, and it's like as soon as you can transport people, I'm gonna knock that shield down, and when you do it, this is what I want you to attack, and that's pretty much it. Like Starpoint Gemini 2 and Warlords does that, and in fact, that's the strategy that I use to win in that game. Is I catch them in a tractor beam and then have boarding parties capture the ship, and then I drag it back to the star dock and sell it, and that's how I make money.
right. But so that's kind of what I'm talking about. So, you know, Ron and I, we really tried to make this game what we would want and what all the fans were telling us they wanted. And so we pretty much, if you could do it in the Star Trek universe, we put it in there. So I would not do that again. But okay, so as far as design though, let's see. The biggest thing, the thing that we used to always talk about when we were building it was the whole interactive terrain. So that was a big thing we wanted to do. So you talked about how you could warp within a system between planets, that the solar system was very large.
And you also had nebula, you also had gas, you also had rings and whatnot that you could fiddle around in, like actual space terrain, which was awesome. So awesome.
So right, so up to that point, terrain in Space Sims was only eye candy. It didn't impact gameplay at all. So in this game, you were actually inside of a nebula and it had effects, or you were inside of a ring and it had different effects, or you're fighting near a black hole and there was all these gravity and all this different stuff that was going on. So that was a big thing for us. We also put in 6 different races. And again, that's one of those things where I said, if I was to make this game again, I wouldn't. You know, and you might say, but I mean, if I cut the Tholians out, would you have cared that much? Well,
not really. No.
Well, I thought it was impressive
the
that all the
Tholians.
races. Jeez, Hunter.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Hunter's had some bad run-ins with Tholians.
If you're gonna fuck
here's-
anyone, fuck the Breen. Okay, just
Yeah.
fuck those guys.
Put my
Oh my
quarter in the
gosh.
tip jar. It's
Well-
gone downhill now.
Anyway,
Yep.
sorry. Go ahead, Brent. I'm
All right,
sorry.
we've reached our F-bomb quota. So, anyways, the other races though, it was surprising that they're all playable. You know, whenever you take it into multiplayer, because the bulk of the game, which is the campaign experience, that focuses entirely on the Klingon ships and that. And then I had not had an opportunity to play it multiplayer until about a year ago, whenever we got it running again.
Yeah, within the last year, yeah.
Yeah, and at that point it was like, oh my gosh, you can play all of this, and that was pretty cool. Although, I mean, it's like you don't have to model the interior of all the ships, but you have to do a UI for them at least. But
right.
It's not like you had to make a bridge for every one of them.
Yeah, but I mean, the sheer number of ships and weapon systems, like we brought in the ones that were the carriers. Forgot what we called them. We invented that race because Starfleet battles had carriers. So we put them in there. And so you have all these fighter-based guys. And so it was great. But I mean, that's one of the reasons it took 3 years is there was no, there was no older version of myself on the team saying, okay, guys, let's focus.
Yeah.
But
and contrary to popular belief, UI is hard.
yeah, and they had to make 6 versions of the artwork for all those screens. And the buttons weren't always in the... Actually, I think they did ultimately put all of them in the same spot. But anyway, so let's see. Design, though. What can I tell you about design? This might interest you. So basically, we took the Starship Enterprise and said, this is your base ship. So it's shields, it's speed, it's armament, whatever. This is like the standard. And then we said, okay, the Klingons are more aggressive. So they have, 1.3, 130% of the weaponry maybe, but less of their shielding and that sort of thing. And then the Romulans, they were like way crazy on armament. And almost everything was armament when they used their cloaking device. And so we developed the different races as kind of like, a ratio or compared to the Enterprise.
Mm.
So it's kind of like if you're making a game with tanks, you can have one that's fast with light armament or slow with heavy armament, that sort of thing. So Ron and I created a racial profile, basically, of what mattered to each race. And then we just had also a profile for all the classes. What is a cruiser to a light cruiser? What's a light cruiser to a frigate? And then that kind of unfolded. And so I had this master spreadsheet that had all of these ships and all of their systems all tied together. So if I changed one thing, if we said we want ships to be a little faster or whatever, it would just recalculate across every single ship in the entire game.
There's this weird glitch that's going on the video that Brian's playing, where the Klingon bird of prey is actually flapping its wings, and it's hilarious. But anyway, just a little distracting. I'm watching, and it's like, does that make it go faster? I don't. But anyway,
if I'm remembering correctly, there was only one patch made for this game, and then it was all done. It was all shut down after that, if I remember correctly. So I don't think the editor that you mentioned earlier ever came out, if I'm remembering correctly.
And Ken in the chat's like, "Hey, dude, you got that spreadsheet?"
Hey, so as far as the design goes, what in the game did you design that you're just the most proud of? Like, what was something in there that you were just absolutely thrilled?
I would say there's two things. First of all, I was very, very happy with the interactive terrain, that it worked, that we were able to pull it off. There was a lot of pressure to like get rid of it, turn it back into eye candy, and it's like, no, this is an essential feature. And it did, in fact, make the game, the game advanced, the innovation or whatever in space sims in several ways, but no one had interactive terrain before. I don't know how many have had it since, but no one had done it before.
No one really has had it since. I'm just going to tell you right now, like, not, I can't.
Yeah, the closest you can get is like in Elite, right? Because you can fly into an asteroid field. Stuff like that.
I mean, Free Space 2 had nebulas that would like screw up your sensors and whatnot, but that was really it, though.
Oh, you know what?
I guess.
Evacron. That's Yep.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, Evacron's pretty neat for that. And you get hit by lightning in the nebula, and you can only think in 2 dimensions. And oh no, wait, that's Khan. But anyways, well, the thing, because you were talking about like all the different systems and that, and I know as a player trying to manage, because you do all the Starfleet battle stuff in here, it's like you go over to engineering and then you're playing with your power distribution, and it's like I need to reinforce shields, which means I have to pull in, it's like you got to rob Peter to pay Paul and balance your energy around and stuff, which you can set profiles, or you have the option to actually go in there and move those sliders yourself, which is kind of like pushing your engineer out of the way and taking his console away from him, which an angry Klingon captain would do. But the thing that impresses me about this is not that the player can do it, but that you programmed how many different AI races, 7, that have how many different ships, that all have different systems with different power demands, and their different profiles, and the AI has to be able to think about what should I be doing right now. Do I need to be on the defensive? Should I be trying to recharge my shields? Should I be keeping my weak shield away from the player, and all that stuff? So the AI is basically playing Starfleet battles quite competently in 3 dimensions, which just kind of blows my mind for the time period, the amount of horsepower that was involved. And I'm sure some of that's like hand wavium and you script it out, but it looks very convincing. So.
You probably would want to hear this then. So like I said, the person who did our AI programmer, Robert Coltrip, he had his PhD. I've no other game I've ever worked on did what we did. So literally, in those days, we would link all of our computers together, right, at night. And he developed this system where the computer would play against each other all night long. and then it would learn from what it did. So I'd say two cruisers go at it, the Klingon cruiser and the Fed cruiser, and they just fight over and over again all night long. And it just tries different things, again, according to his code, and then it had a chart that it kept, a database of all the success of different strategies. So he literally trained all of those ships. And then, of course, then you have to come in and do the human element, because at first the AI it was too funny. It would put no power to shields at all, except the very base amount to keep them on. And then right the instant your weapon was about to strike the shield, because he'd overload all of his weapons and shoot them at you. The instant your weapon was about to hit his shield, he would just put all of his power to shields. It was too hilarious.
God, so it's like playing Starfleet battles against Skynet.
Son of a bitch. That explains so much.
So you had to dumb it down a little bit.
Yeah, I had to tell him, okay, the AI cannot do that. And so we dumbed it down a little bit. But I mean, that's how it did. It also said, you know what? I like colliding with people. You know, it's a great tactic.
I wanted to ask about that.
Yes.
Because
Oh my God.
damn the ramming in this game.
That's my pet. That's the one thing. Like, if I could change one thing in this game, is because I never know if I'm actually going to ram somebody or not because of magnification on the screen. And it looks like I'm still kind of far. And I guess the shields bash each other, right? But it's kind of jarring. Like, I'll be chasing somebody, and then all of a sudden it's like, wham! I rammed them, and it's like, no, I really didn't want to do that.
Yeah, well, we've got the AI not to do that, so we toned down in its chart that as a tactic. But the thing is, you're trying to point your ship you're moving forward, and you're trying to point your ship at another ship, so your distance is constantly closing. So collisions are not unheard of. One of the things that happens when a project goes long like this, I said it was 3 years in development, is you start to have management get nervous, people start second-guessing things, and there was this whole discussion about the collision. And I told them, because collision's not fun, we need to turn down the damage so that players don't feel like they're getting messed up when they get, if they accidentally collide, you don't want to like blow up and lose everything. And so there was this big kind of internal debate about that, but I lost that round. So it did ship with collisions causing more damage than I wanted. So
now, is there an INI file in there?
They're supposed to cause a lot of damage. A collision is horrible, but at the same time, it just happens so much.
Yeah, if I just had a way of like what I was saying early on in the show, if I had an external view where I could actually see like, oh wow, I'm really close. Because the way that the game portrays it, it's like, well, he's still a mile away from me, and then suddenly I smash into him. So,
I see.
Even though they turned down the AI or whatever, this game is still pretty challenging.
It's very challenging.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, we're not complaining about that. It's just every time, boing. And if you oh, sorry.
All I got is, thank God the Borg aren't in here, because that would be too much.
And I will tell you, this game, I gotta say, has amazing force feedback. Like some of the best. I have to like let go of the stick sometimes because it's shaking so damn violently. Like I don't want to. I'm worried I'm gonna break it because it's shaking so violently. And when you have a collision, I swear this stick is velcroed onto a wooden base, and I swear I'm worried it's gonna shake itself off. That's how violent the force feedback is. So that's amazing that you guys have such great force feedback.
I have to bring Ken in because he's jumping up and down, and he's like, I want to talk about collision.
Oh, all right. Bring him in.
Working on it.
Now, is this Ken, the Starfleet battles designer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he worked on supplements and stuff. I'm not sure how in the core product he was, but he's definitely in the mix.
Yeah, one of the things is the perspective too. You're talking about how the ships seem like maybe they're not as close as they are, or something like that. One of the things, interesting enough, we were going for this capital ship feel, and so we kept slowing the ships down and slowing them down, and it didn't quite match. And then one day, our lead programmer, he just started playing with the scale of the ships. And we made the ships much larger in scale, and it the way the camera worked, all of a sudden they seemed just enormous from the camera. And so it just really made the capital ships look and feel big. But then also that same camera perspective may cause part of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that probably did have something to do with it.
Yeah, Ken, say something. We'll see if you're in here.
I don't see
He's
him.
not. He's not in here.
Oh, he bounced out. All right.
Let me try.
Do 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 do.
Anyway. So,
Yeah, it's like I brought him, but it didn't. It just gave me a phone icon. It didn't give me the actual dialing. So I guess I can't add him.
It sounds like he's here.
Yeah, we got him now.
Howdy, I'm here.
Hey, Ken, Brent, Ken.
Nice
Hey,
to
Brent.
meet you, Ken.
Nice to meet you, Brent.
It's funny, Brent. We're here geeking out. At least me. I'm geeking out to you about Klingon Academy, and here you are geeking out about Starfleet battles.
That's right.
It's a mutual geek out society. It's great.
So Ken's got a new thing that he's working on that I can't recall the name of. But
Go ahead and
he'll tell
pimp it,
us.
Ken. Get it out of the way. Pimp it real quick. Just go.
Alrighty.
Pimp it real quick.
Alrighty, so now I can actually tell what's going on with Skype in this. I own a couple of space combat sims that are board games, and one of them is a board game that allows you to design just about anything from any setting and make it all work in 3D as a board game. I've got a setting that is my fallback if my Starfleet battles / Star Trek related stuff has to go into a bin. And that bin is going, and that setting is called Interstellar Expanse. And at some point, Brent, I'd love to talk to you about it because I think you might enjoy it.
Sure.
Yes,
I'm not really sure. I don't have a mental picture of what you're describing there, but sure, I'd love to hear about it.
Alrighty, let me go and mute the. There we go. Now I can actually hear you without hearing myself on a 4-second delay. So I made a not Star Trek setting. I don't have the Klingons, I don't have the Romulans, I don't have the Federation, but I have a human culture that is stuck between two warring factions that happen to have their names start with a K and an R. And one of the amusing things on this is that rather than the meta story for Star Trek where the Federation is clearly more powerful than either the Klingons or the Romulans, and arguably more powerful than both of them combined once you factor in the technology advantages and the economic advantages, in my particular case, the human faction is best described as Israel as a client state of the Romulans being used as a buffer zone against the Klingons.
Okay. But
Does that sound like an interesting setting?
Now, is this a board game that you're making?
This is a setting for one of the board games that I already.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So what?
Dimensional spaceship combat and
the official
and it
Starfleet battles stuff that you worked on. What was that? Because that was like supplements and rule stuff. Like later on in the game, right?
I think Ken might be getting delayed here.
Oh, Ken, you still got us?
Oh, we lost him. We're trying to get the call back. Skype technical difficulties, friends. Skype is great when it works.
Yeah, I heard him start breaking up a little bit there.
Am I breaking up?
No.
No, we're all fine.
Everyone fine.
Oh, okay. Oh man, I got a bad call quality here. For some reason. Hang on, let me.
It is Tuesday night and it's the internet, so.
But it's probably.
No, seriously.
New York internet.
The internet seems to like to reboot every Tuesday night. Like I don't understand what it is. Like Steam, like crashes like 4 or 5 times every Tuesday night. Oh, I even got called.
What the hell was
I
that?
think I'm back. Is everybody still here?
Okay, I think we lost.
Hello?
Oh my God,
Hello?
we lost.
You can hear me?
I
Hello?
can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Oh, my mute was backwards.
Mine is too.
I
Crap, hang
I
on.
hear you guys fine.
And I think we just lost Brent.
Yeah, we got to get Brent back.
Oh God, hang on.
The internet's rebooting. Hold on a second.
I get the internet here on one of these here floppies.
The internet's been rebooted by the gods of the internet. Yep.
Oh my
Somebody hit
God.
the
So
red
if
button
I
up like that box.
if I call him, I have to cut out with you guys. So just hang. I'm gonna have to cut out with you guys and call back.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine.
Sorry, folks. Hang on. Yeah, Skype just decided to take a crap, Brent. Sorry. Hang on a second.
Okay, no problem.
1 second. Yeah, Skype just decided to take a massive dump. It's going to be fun putting the audio of this together.
But this is live, right?
Yeah, this is live.
Yep. So
we do it.
I'm
We
back.
do it live. We do it live all the time.
Well, one of the things you guys had asked me about what I was, something I was most proud of designing. And so I mentioned the interactive terrain, but there's actually something that's actually even more than that. And so remember I told you about the spreadsheet that has everything tied together?
Yeah.
Well,
What the literal hell?
It sounds like we're all back.
Yeah, I think
All right,
we're all
cool.
back now. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brent.
All right. Well, anyway, so the game was taking a long time to make, and so management called us in. We had just about everything done. We just needed to balance the game. And so we had this meeting with the owner of the company and senior management, and they were saying, okay, how long is it going to take you to balance this thing? You know, and Ron said, oh, we could balance this in 6 weeks. And I looked over at him like he's, you know, insane. And because we had all these ships, right? Tons and tons of ships and all these different weapon systems and all this. And so I was like, geez, I was thinking, you know, 3 months, you know, and management freaks out when I say that. But anyway, I told him, look, give us the QA department. We don't have time, obviously, for me and Ron to test and play all these ships. So give us the QA department. We'll have them do specific matches, give us their feedback, and we'll balance it. So probably the thing I'm actually proudest of is that actually worked. The design of the game, using all the various ratios and tying it into a spreadsheet, worked so that we could take the feedback. Even though I didn't get to play all those battles, I got to take the feedback from QA, and I was able to just tweak values in my spreadsheet, repopulate all the ships, and we just iterated over and over again. So to balance a game that has this many different ships, this many different weapon systems in such a short amount of time is probably the thing I'm actually proudest about.
Yeah, because there are what, about 30 some ships in the game? I would reckon maybe 30 or 40.
Yeah, I think it's over 40 because
Yeah.
the big races even had, some of them even had 2 battleships. So they
Yeah.
had like 9 ships. The main 3 had 9 ships in each fleet, plus one had an extra battleship.
Plus,
And
you
then
had
that-
civilian ships, and then you
Yeah.
had the other. Yeah, you had the smaller races as well.
Yeah, the Shakurans, the Tholian, and the Gorn.
Right. So that's a lot of ships to track and balance, and that sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It's I was just really, really excited that came off.
So, Brent, what stuff actually was directly inspired by SFB?
Well, I mean, literally, when the project first started, when I was brought on, they were sitting there playing Starfleet battles, you know. So, I mean, think about it. You kind of have to go back in your mind a little bit and say what kind of Star Trek games existed, you know. And so the designers that were all making it, we'd all played Starfleet battles. So,
No love for Fast Star Trek Tactical Simulator?
uh, you know, I'm not even aware of that one. Maybe I was at the time, but I don't remember it right now.
I proudly own it and have never played it, so
I've-
it's still in the box.
It's
I think
great
I've
stuff to
actually-
read. It's great stuff to read.
Yeah.
Well, think about Starfleet battles though. Starfleet battles, you have a limited amount of power. You
Yep.
have to use that power for weapons or shields or movement, among other things. And as you take damage, you not only lose devices like you lost your phaser banks or your photons, but you might lose part of your nacelles. So now you have less power to manage. So that absolutely came from Starfleet battles. That whole
Yeah.
concept of, you know,
Of rob Peter to pay Paul.
exactly. That definitely was.
So I use that concept in Squadron Strike, which is a game engine that I built. Think of it as a game engine for a video game, only it's a game engine for board games that allows you to design any spaceship from any setting and put it on the table in full 3D. One of my standard demos for that is to take the Galactica and have it attacked by Klingons and defended by the Minbari from Babylon 5.
Well, that's a thing.
Wow.
Yeah, so the place where Ken and I ran into each other is he made this game. It's called Attack Vector Tactical, where he takes a hex map. Imagine Starfleet battles, but it's in full 6 degrees of freedom. So you know instead of just the hex sides horizontally, it's also hex sides all the way around in an orb, and you plot movement using actually this cool orb tool, and then it's all vector based. So instead of being Star Trek where it's just magic warp drive that flies like an airplane, you actually have to point and shoot with the engine to get where you're going. So the design, when you read the rules, it just melts your brain. And then he's got a tutorial in there that you just do it, and once you actually play through it, it's like, oh, that's not entirely like mind bending. So
or
so
it's mind bending, but in a good way.
Yeah, it is. But I see that as kind of a pretty cool evolution of because Star Trek was like a lot of hand waved fiction stuff. It's like, well, we got shields, we don't know how that works, but and then warp drive and these things.
Warp
where
drive.
Attack Vector kind of reins that back and says, okay, well, we have ships that look more like the International Space Station than the Enterprise, and they're like form over function kind of things, and we have a problem with heat and radiation and stuff like that. So that's what I found kind of fascinating. So I started talking to Ken, and then I found out that he actually worked. What was the actual Starfleet battles license stuff that you worked on, though? Because there was some of it that you had your hands.
So I was a playtester for Starfleet Battles from 1991 all the way to when I left the company as their marketing director in 2005. Am I still on?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wrote one product called Module C5, which added 3 new races to the Magellanic Clouds, and I was functionally the developer for a series of products called the Omega Sector, which covered pretty much everything, which covered something like 13 new races in a different quadrant of the galaxy. And executive developer means that I didn't design it, I just went through and took all the rules that were written for it, checked them against all of the other rules that were existing in the game, including the rules that had been written that were in the pipeline for products that hadn't been published yet, and made sure that all the interactions were defined that could be defined. And then went through and coordinated playtests to make sure that, for the most part, they were fun to play and play against. So I have a lot of sympathy for Brent's story about, oh yeah, we'll balance all the ships in 6 weeks.
Right.
Because I got
but Brent,
to do...
But Brent's my hero because he made a computer play your game like Kasparov. So
Well, that was somebody. That was a Cold Trip. I can't take credit for that one.
Alrighty. At some point, Brent, I would love to talk to you outside the context of a podcast, and learn what the digital side does, and how they work it these days. Because all of my friends that I know who work in the digital side are former people who worked in the digital side, and they go, never again, never again. I like being able to sleep.
Yeah.
I like not being fired when the project is done.
Well, yeah, that's true. And the guys alluded to that earlier. The game industry is a tough. It is tough, and so you end up, once you go into crunch mode, you're working at least 12 hours a day or more, and you're working it probably 6 days a week and on just a perpetual basis. Klingon Academy was like that for well over a year. So like a year and a half of its 3-year development cycle was one big long crunch. That was my introduction to the game industry.
Oh, you poor soul.
So,
Damn.
But that's the other companies, they do that. So that's true. A lot of these indie companies, like myself, after I was at Activision for 7 years, I dodged a lot of layoffs there. A lot of people liked me and kept me on. But when that finally happened, I started to go interviewing and stuff, and I just realized I just don't want to do this anymore.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I started working for myself doing it. Um,
That's kind of what happened with me. I decided that I'd rather publish my own games than work on somebody else's for a while. So my total list of projects that I worked on for Amarillo Design Bureau, I can legitimately say that next to Steve Cole and probably Steve Petrick, I have written more words for that game and for the follow-on game, Federation Commander, than just about anybody else in the development cycle.
wow. Wow, because those rule books were pretty impressive. I mean, I
You could
had
kill somebody just by dropping it on them. Really, I mean, I've seen a guy that had a 3-ring binder that had what I assume could only be the full wallop in it, and it was one of those like expanding 3-ring binders, where it like telescopes up to fit whatever you put in it, and it was like I've been to the library, and you see that dictionary that sits on a podium and it takes like 2 people to open that thing. That's what this dude's binder looked like. And it was just like, that's why people have trouble getting into Starfleet battles, I think.
My video camera is off, which is probably just as well because I'm sitting here looking furtively over at my 6-inch D-ring binder that has just the rules for SFB, with a separate book for the annexes and 4 separate books for the scenarios and 17 separate books for all of the SSDs sorted by race.
Yeah, with me, when I was playing it, I was in high school and college. Those are the years I played it a lot. And
But that's when we had time to do that.
Yes.
Exactly. And so I remember we would get into these we'd be playing a game, and then someone would pull out subsection 6, this, that, and something that nobody expected, some rule they weren't familiar with. And then we'd have this big...
So you played before Doomsday. You played before 1990.
Yes.
Okay.
So
you played during the errata edition. You played during the errata wars period.
Yeah, well, we would, it'd be like a bunch of lawyers, and finally in order to have sane games, we would literally we'd just review very quickly, these are the rules we're using for this game. If we haven't mentioned them up front, they're not happening. Otherwise, it was like we were all lawyers or something, because somebody would pull something out, and I don't know.
I'm surprised that there wasn't actually a race of rule lawyers that were like put in the game.
Fun bit of Starfleet Battles history. From 1988 to roughly 1990, Task Force Games iteration number 4 had run out of money, and they knew that they had a fallow audience that hadn't had any new products out there. So they spent 2 years reorganizing the company and giving Steve Cole time to go and redesign and incorporate all the addenda that had happened from 1984 to 1988 into one codified set of rules. And since 1990, Starfleet Battles has largely been stable. It hasn't had it's had new additions coming in, and it's had people like me who made sure that those new races and rules that got added in were cross-checked against everything else that was in the rules, so that you wouldn't have the addenda factory process going on again. But I suspect that when you were playing Starfleet Battles at the table while developing Klingon Academy, you were playing Doomsday Edition.
Yeah, I don't remember. I might have been. I'm not sure.
I know I was. It was deadly.
So Brent, I gotta ask you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we kind of hinted at this earlier, but in all reality, if you could make another game like this, would you? Like,
like toned down to where you're comfortable.
Okay, sure. The answer is sure. When Klingon Academy shipped, even though it was a 3-year cycle, even though, like I said, we crunched for a long time, I was still, even at that stage, I was ready to go. I was new in the industry, so it's like, I can't believe they pay me to, make games, So
I mean, like, so if someone was to be like, hey, we got the license to this thing and we want to make another one, we would really like you to tag along.
Yeah, we know a guy named Chris that can tell you how to get $100 million for this.
Well,
damn it.
So
we can't go an episode without bringing that up, can we?
It's a rule.
Well, if, would I enjoy working on another Star Trek space sim? Sure, I would.
Would you enjoy
But
working on a non-Star Trek space sim?
sure, sure.
One that's in air quotes called not Star Trek.
Star Trek.
It's kind of like this one, right? We looked at, they want us to make Klingon Academy a sequel. We looked at how the other one did, all the feedback, and then you find something to be passionate about, that we wanted to do. In this case, it was capital ships, and it was interactive terrain and things like that. And then you're motivated to go create something. So the answer is sure, I would love to. If I had a group of guys and we were hashing out what we could make, would I get inspired? Yes. Would at this stage in my life, would I want to do another year and a half of crunch? No, I wouldn't sign up for that.
No. I
That's
would
what
not
kids
want
are
to.
for.
I've got 3 kids now, and I'm not. I would rather.
Hey, don't forget, you have more than just 3 kids. You have a whole classroom now.
No,
Well,
you have
that's
3 kids.
true.
That's a coding team. And tell them, hey, do you want to break for the whole summer, not having to mow the lawn? Well, welcome to Dad's sweatshop.
It's funny that you say that, because I just released Wizard Rage for the Xbox 360. And right before I released it, I was doing lots and lots of testing. And I had, trying to find all these multiplayer problems and stuff like that. And so my kids, they always are my play testers. And they got tired, especially my son. He goes, I don't want to play it anymore. And I said, well, this is the deal. You can wash dishes, or you can play Wizard Rage with me. So it was really bad. I said, this is your chore. You are playing Wizard Rage with me. So yeah, that's kind of how it was. They were my crew. I had a lot of other play testers, but they were the ones that were always on hand.
So you apparently have a new endeavor that is entirely about teaching kids how to program.
Yes. My son, he was in 5th grade at the time, and I've for the past many years I've been wanting to teach kids coding. I like teaching, and at the time nobody was doing it, and so yeah, I just didn't see much of an opportunity there. And then a couple years ago, my son's class, they were using something called Khan Academy. It's an online tutorial for teaching math and many other subjects. It's really cool. And I heard his teacher saying that she's gonna have him start doing coding through it. And so I went and I looked at it and I talked to her and I said, I could come in here and give you a lesson as a teaser, or I could come in for several weeks and teach him how to make Pong in JavaScript. And so that's what happened. I taught him how to make Pong in JavaScript, and they just went nuts and started making all sorts of stuff. Then my wife teaches at another school. They asked me to come over there. And so it kind of culminated in me making a pitch to the district. And I said, you guys, look what I've done. You guys have to put coding in the school. And so that didn't employ me or anything, but he said yes. And so he started making those changes. I started training teachers. And so right now I'm not doing anything with the district directly, but I'm teaching kids in the summer and after school.
Have you considered doing a Khan Academy style thing, like a YouTube series where you just instruct, like all the kids on the internet that want to, tune in for this series, like maybe like an episode a week or something?
Also the live coding website too. It's kind of like Twitch, but for coders.
Yeah, well, it's the reason that I ask about that is like I've purchased several online courses and it's like $30, right? And it'll be like 40 episodes of somebody who's teaching a class like that. And there's places like Udemy that sells access to them. And I think you could make a couple bucks, for your effort in that. But the other part of that is there's a guy on YouTube that he's making. The channel is called It's Handmade Hero, I think it is, Handmade or Homemade Hero. He's like 130 something episodes into it now, and he does an hour at a time, and he codes. He's writing a Zelda kind of game from scratch, and he explains every line of code that he's banging out, and he's writing the whole thing in C++. And just explains along the way, or C# rather. But it's like he's not using an engine. He's writing his own engine to do it, and that way he gets to explain like, okay, here's a screen buffer, here's how this works, and here's how I set up a sound system so that we can actually play sound and do that. And he's doing it all low level. So, and it's I watch it. I'm trying to absorb what I can, but I think I need to code along with him in order to get the full experience. But that's doable.
Huh. Well, I could definitely do that. If you sent me after this is done, send me a link to like that thing that you purchased or where.
Yeah, sure.
The thing is, where I'm at is I'm not working in the game industry anymore. For the big companies, I'm going independent. So at this stage, I only have so much time in my life. So I would have to obviously charge for it in order to make a living at it. So that's the only thing. I know there's a lot of really cool resources online, and a lot of them are free, which is great. But if I was to take the time to actually try to video myself and edit those videos and capture what I'm teaching the kids, I would love it because it would reach so many more kids. Yeah. But I would also have to think about how would you market that, because I would also have to make a living too.
Yeah, I guess the way maybe you could approach it is, put sort of a teaser up as free, and then just be like, if you like what's going on here, here's like a few episodes of it, and if you want to follow up on that, then a donation or whatever, or buy it through this site, or I'll talk to you about that off.
Or Patreon.
Or Patreon,
which I have been using quite successfully to slow fund product development that otherwise wouldn't get made.
It's called Patreon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's like
Patreon, let me explain, since I actually run one.
So do I, man.
So you do?
Sorry, go ahead.
hipsterwelfare.com/SpaceGameJunkie.
Go ahead, Ken.
So what I do with Patreon is I charge people a monthly subscription fee, and I release content at different tiers. So people who pay $5 a month get different content than people who pay $10 a month. And I just have to make sure that I put up, 2 or 3 things a month to keep my customers happy. And it has helped fund some products that otherwise wouldn't have happened. This might actually be something that you could do to fund, to fund the time needed to video edit your online courses.
Well, I think you guys give me something to definitely look into and think about. I wasn't aware of that, so.
It's pretty nice. I have, like I said, I have one too, and it pays. It pretty much covers the costs of running the blog and the hosting and all that stuff. So it's pretty great. So yeah, it's a great little service. They're pretty responsive if you have issues. So I've really not had a problem with them, actually.
And in the last 3 months, they have fixed their biggest problem, which was the sequencing issue on charging cards.
I thought their biggest problem was discoverability. Like, it's not like Kickstarter or Steam where you can just browse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do have to spend more time promoting your Patreon than you do Kickstarter. You won't get as many random people bumping in.
Yeah.
Patreon is good if you've got an established customer base or an established fan base.
Yeah.
Now to say like an extreme success story, right? So, guy that used to work for a company that was local here, and I don't know what he was making there, but from what I'm told, it was approximate of what he's making on Patreon. So he does about 4 YouTube videos a month, and his Patreon donations are at $12,000 a month right now. So he's doing okay.
Jeff Jakeways of Questionable Content makes about $9,000 a month.
Right, and yeah, we make a lot less. But anyway, a lot less.
We pay for that $10 hosting fee.
It's sadly a lot more than that. But anyway, do we have any final questions for Brent? Because Brent, I've loved talking to you, but I'm running out of steam. The 4th of July weekend kicked my ass. So
hey, Brent, at some point in time, if you'd be down for it, we would love to do a multiplayer session with you in this.
Thank you, Hunter. Thank you.
Yes, we will ram you mercilessly. because
You'll see how much damage it causes. God damn it.
Actually,
Yeah.
I have a solution to your ramming problem.
edit the INI file.
No, even better than that. Use the attack vector ramming rules, which is that. If you're
God
going to
damn
be
it, Ken. God damn it.
where if you're going to be
Pimpin' ain't
ramming
easy.
somebody, where if you're going to be ramming somebody, you have to stand back and say and give the speech to all the people on your crew who are represented by the other players in the game, explaining why it is necessary for them to throw away their lives for this particular ram.
Okay, Brent,
Well,
Ramming's
anyway.
Brent-
once.
Brent, I have one last question for you. Do you have any idea why this is not on GOG? Do you have any clue to that at all? Because this needs to be on GOG. Starfleet
Yeah, but
Academy
they got
is
the
on
other
GOG.
one.
Yeah, they got the other one. They need this one on GOG, for God's sake. Apparently, you can just use these programs that this one guy made and get it to run in high def. There's no reason this should not be on GOG that I can think of. Do you have any idea why this is not on GOG? Any thought at all?
No, I don't know. I do not know. I don't have any insight on that one.
I mean, that's a good question to ask for almost any of the Star Trek games, because it's just like, where's Elite Force? Where's Elite Force 2? Where's Armada? Where's Armada 2? Like,
I mean, some
A
of
lot of it-
some of them are Activision, some of them are Interplay. There's probably a different thing going on with
yeah,
both
but
of
still,
them.
they're not
You
there
know-
either.
You
What
know
happened?
what else
What's
it
going
could
on?
be? Is like we saw Mafia 2 get pulled for a while off of Steam. It's back now. But the
Yeah.
reason it got pulled was dispute over the music rights, because there was a couple of songs that were on the radio in there and they had to get rid of them.
But isn't most of the music in Klingon Academy original?
Yeah, it's all the
All
James
of it.
stuff.
All of it is.
Yeah. I remember it's very operatic,
It's the original Klingon opera.
Oh no,
but
it was we hired a composer and it was a whole symphony recorded it in like
What?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So I wonder
Damn.
if it's maybe royalties to the actors, like Christopher Plummer. And,
Oh, damn.
Residuals
Yeah.
might kill that.
Oh,
I'm
damn.
gonna get Sark on the phone and ask him what's going down with that, because
That might be a big part of it. I didn't even think of that.
I actually don't think so on that one, guys.
Oh, really?
Paramount definitely gets royalties on this. I don't think any of the actors have royalties tied to it.
Oh.
yeah, I don't know. We should poke around on this.
Yeah, this is a game, folks. If you can track down a disc copy of it, it's 6 discs, but you can get it for relatively inexpensively on eBay or Amazon. It's not like one of those games that people ask $200-300 for. They should, but they
we
don't.
If you can figure out a way to acquire this game.
Yeah, seriously,
Yeah, and Brian,
it's serious.
Brian has written up a guide on making it work. Under
Yes.
Windows 7
Yeah,
Windows.
I didn't make the patches. Someone else did. I don't remember their name off the top of my head, but there's a guy.
You did a guide though, right?
Yeah, I
You
did.
guys you're running this on Windows 7?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
7
saying.
out of 10.
I'm saying, yeah.
Like I said, I was running at 3440 on
Yeah.
Windows 10. It was just happy.
I forget the name of the guy. I can send you a link, but this one guy made of 2 or 3 little programs that allow it to run in modern OSs, and it works great. The only thing that doesn't scale is the UI. So the higher res you go, the smaller it gets. But at 1080, it is fairly readable, and it is still gorgeous, and the ships still blow up real good.
Yeah,
real good.
I have a question.
Those ships blow up real good. Yep.
They do.
Especially when you ram them. So the
Running
voice command stuff. The voice command stuff that's in here. Does that use, because the only other game that I've ever played that used the voice command stuff in this way is a submarine game called Sub Commander. And it was, like you can say in the microphone, like, make turns for 20 knots. And they'll be like,
I don't think this game has native voice command, does it? I don't think it does.
I thought that it actually had voice
No,
command.
you got it. I believe you got to use something like voice attack for it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Never mind.
Yeah, back in the day, we were saying I used Game Commander, which is a thing back in like the 98 era. But now you can use voice attack with it. I'm actually slowly building a voice attack profile for it, and it works really swimmingly.
Oh, okay.
So, guys.
No, I had like past distortion because I must have done that.
No, that's
myself.
fair. Yeah, you probably did. Game Commander worked with a bunch of games, and this was one of them, and it worked great. And it was so immersive when it worked. Oh my God. So guys, again, Klingon Academy. Sadly, you cannot get this son of a gun digitally. It is so good. It is so good. It's pre-Star Trek 6, so you have Kang and Gorkon.
How good is it?
It's so good. It'll massage your back and make you feel like a man. I don't know where that came from.
No, that's good. No, I like it.
So Brian,
yes,
you know how they're selling the William Shatner voice attack profiles for Elite.
Yeah.
If somehow this thing should appear on GOG, you too could sell a voice attack profile, but you could make it perhaps so that it understands Klingon. So you could actually speak Klingon at your screen.
Yeah, Brent. There's a company that makes vocal things for Elite Dangerous that works with voice attack that actually responds back to you, and they've got William Shatner and a few other people. I would love David Warner. I would love David Warner is the next one that I want them to get because he would be amazing. But anyway, folks, let's wrap this up. Brent, where can people find you online? If they want to learn about your academy or they want to talk to you, where can they find you online?
Okay, well, let's see. As far as for teaching coding, that's simply www.codingwithkdog.com.
You should register KlingonCodingAcademy.com and then redirect it to.
The best place, if they like Facebook, facebook.com KDog Games. And you'll see both posts there about the software games that I'm making, as well as things that I'm teaching kids. And then I have a blog too that's k-doggames.com.
And what is the name of the game you said you just released on the 360?
Oh, it's Wizard Rage. So Wizard Rage on the 360, it is a very, very good first-person shooter where you are wizards. So you can shoot lightning, you can throw fireballs, you can teleport and do mirror images and have walls of fire, and so all sorts of really fun stuff there. But it's multiplayer only, and it's on the Xbox 360 Indie.
Is there any plans to bring that to the PC at all?
Well, right now what I'm looking into is so far I've been making all my stuff in Game Studio, XNA Game Studio, which is kind of depreciating. It's kind of going away. So what I'm planning on doing is learning Unity this year and taking I did a dodgeball game that's very popular on the Xbox 360. So I want to use that to kind of learn. It's less complicated, so I want to use that to learn Unity. And then once I do, then I would like to bring Wizard Rage. And once it gets to Unity, it's everywhere. I can go to PC, I can go to Xbox, PlayStation, anything.
That sounds fun.
That's the long answer. So Wizard Rage won't come to the PC soon.
But you would like it to, and that's good. That gives us hope that, because I don't own a 360, so that gives us hope that one day people like me can actually play it. Because I love wizards and stuff, so that sounds like a blast.
I'm watching a gameplay video of it. And it reminds me a lot of a thing that used to be on an old Game Storm, and it was actually Iron Crown Enterprises made a Middle Earth role-playing game, and it was actually based off of that, and it was a wizard arena shooter kind of thing, and it looked kind of a lot like this, except 1995 version.
This looks fun. This looks fun. Yeah.
Yeah, this is as an indie, this has been my most ambitious project. So I've released 3 independent projects, and I step it up each time. So this was fun. Unfortunately, I took a long time to make it, and it really should be launching on the Xbox One, but I had geared it for the Xbox 360.
Although I believe there's still a lot of people who have 360s. Who haven't upgraded for various reasons, because like certain games like Red Dead Redemption, which they just announced is finally having backwards compatibility, but there are a lot of games that people just haven't decided to.
Well, I have some free game codes too, so if you guys want to give some away to any of your listeners, let me know and I can send you guys some.
Yeah, email me some.
I have a 360.
Email me like 3 or 4, and I'll give one to Hunter, and then I'll give away the other ones.
That sounds good.
All right. Well, Brent, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this relatively old yet still amazing and fun game and we're gonna try and get you back. We definitely want to schedule some multiplayer with you.
Does it feel weird that it's a 16-year-old game?
It does a little bit. It does. It does a little bit.
Old enough to vote.
Yeah, it does a little bit. And yeah, it still holds up. It's so good. It's still. Oh, we lost Ken.
But nobody has actually made anything that approximates this game.
No,
forever.
Not really. So it's still great to return to this every now and again to just feel that beast of a ship, and feel that, and to see those great ships models just blow apart piece by piece. That is just a joy, right there. But yeah, so folks, next week on the show, real quick, we're gonna have the developer of Galactineers. And since he's in Europe, that's going to be an early show, 6 a.m. my time. So that's going to be fun. And Thursday.
It's called Galactic Beers.
Yes, Galactic Beers.
It's a German game.
It's a German game. Actually, he is German. And right now in the poll for the game for the week, which was going to go up probably tomorrow as you hear this, the poll right now, Order of Battle World War II is winning by 1 vote. So if you want to vote, go to spacegamejunkie.com and vote for whatever game I will play on Thursday night. So Brent, again, thank you so much, and I'm going to talk to you about arranging a lunch because you're so close. That'll be a blast. But folks, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Good night.
Thank you much, guys.